Greetings, everybody. What's up? Welcome to Fireside Chats. I'm your host, Aseer the Duke of Tears. We're here on this lovely Tuesday, day after President's Day. Definitely want to give thanks to the ancestors and thank you guys for tuning in and subscribing. A lot of things have been happening in the news recently. So much happening in the real world. Again, I like to take time and deal with that before I can give you guys an assessment. The Grammys happened. There was a big thing happening with Kendrick Lamar doing the whole uh, prison into consciousness thing. I thought that was cool. Anytime you see any people in that arena do anything that somewhat seem about so-called black liberation and power, you should feel good. However, at the same time, I wouldn't invest so much energy into what entertainers are necessarily telling you about that, because the same way they could do that, the next day you might see him in a video tonguing Taylor Swift or something. So don't get your hopes up. You know what I mean? Don't put energy into things that don't exist. Take the inspiration, move on. Same thing. One of the biggest things that hit the internet, basically broke the internet, was this whole Beyonce Formation video thing. And the biggest thing in the so-called conscious community was the fact that there was one person wearing a fez or turban, a fez, which is great. I'm always down for that. I'm about promoting Moorish Americana as a viable lifestyle option. Yet at the same time, again, I don't feel that we should try to now look at this person that we call Beyonce, that I coined, who was once a babe who knows less. We can't put her in a position to now carry the whole so-called movement on her back, because that's not. I never felt that that's who she was. However, what was good about it was that it piqued the interest of the conscious community, in the sense that there's an element of us that, as people who have been suffering from a universal dissociative identity disorder, meaning that we've been dissociated from our true identity, which has created a disorder and a disharmony in how we communicate with ourselves and each other. There's a need for people who suffer from stuff like that to ally themselves or attach themselves to things that can garner a higher sense of clarity or an inspirational instinct. So the real thing is, we have to not put imagery over symmetry. You know what I mean? We cannot look at an image and then take that image to be an actual. It can inspire a movement, but it cannot be the movement. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, look at the ritual that was going on with that. The fact that right before the Beyonce thing, they had this big problem with Cam Newton. You know what I mean? And he was the head quarterback of the Panthers. So ritualistically, it was the pale white horse, the Broncos, going against the so-called Black Panther, which again represent the Olmec people. And from that, it was also a parallel in the fact that Cam was born in 1989. Huey Newton, one of the founders of the Black Panthers, died in 1989. Here's Huey Newton, Cam Newton. One is on the Panther football team, one started the so-called Black Panthers, and both are hated on, or as seen as a so-called militant black organization. But isn't the KKK a militant white organization, specifically? And remember, the Black Panthers were the ones that instituted and initiated all of the social programs in the United States, that the United States co-opted and turned into things like Homes, Head Start, and the rest of these things. So the only thing that the Panthers were really guilty of and initially was having some sort of self-determination. The reason why they could be dismantled and broken down like that, though, was due to the fact that they still were doing it with no nationality. So based on that, they could be seen as a terrorist organization by the people who still technically owned all of the people who were claiming to be Black Panthers, but were still listed as United States citizens or human capital or whatever else they call Negro, Black, and colors in their system. So the fact that it went from the Cam thing to now Beyonce, who didn't do nothing new. Michael Jackson did the same type of thing, basically wearing the same bullets around the torso. That is an old reference to Zapata. And for people who don't know what Zapata is, he was the more Pancho Villa, that set off the revolution in Mexico. So Michael already did that. Just like when you look at some of the old Grammy performances that Michael did the whole chain in prison thing too. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is taking aspects of the great rituals, and then basically putting new faces on it is what they do. And unfortunately, because people are in a typical nature where they forget what happened in the past, they wind up falling for the okie doke. So we go from Cam Newton hating on him as a Panther to Beyonce now being seen as a Black Panther to now the movie Civil War coming out with the Black Panther in it, who allegedly is the undecided vote in what side he's going to be on, the side of Captain America, who represents the Republic, or Iron Man, which represents the TIN, the tax ID number man, or the so-called Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. So as you can see, all of these rituals, all of these stories, all of these allegorical things are really just there to keep people wrapped up in the same old ambiguousness of culture. So the very fact that they seen a Fez in a Beyonce video again excited people to the point to say that, oh, she's conscious. We have more on Facebook putting up things like, oh, the Empress Beyonce knows Carter Bay. Like, just because they calling her that as a placeholder to keep other people wrapped up in that version of Bay than the real Bay. You understand? And there's an element of her that allows herself to be used as that placeholder, the same way the Native American community did with the Indian thing, to be the placeholders from us as being the original so-called American Indians or Tontons, who were then redesignated as Negroes through the census. And then these people now come in through a whole nother thing called the Dawes Rolls, which is now based on something called blood quantum, which basically says that the United States is the only one that can determine whether or not you're a Native American or not. You see what I'm saying? Like, all of that is trickery, because how can the United States, the people who exterminated you know what I'm saying, the so-called American Indian, Native American, or Tonkinist American, i.e. Moors of America, how could they be the ones to tell you blood-wise how much you are? That's why you got these crazy people walking around here talking about, I'm 1/4 Cherokee and I'm 10/4 Apache and 1% Wampanoag. Like, all of that, if you dealing with that, even the Native American communities that accepted that, the fact that you accepted that to get bread, to open casinos, that's cool. You building up little stuff for your communities and the reservations. But guess what? The minute they find oil or whatever else on your land, you're out of there. They're going to get somebody else in there to get you out. They're going to flip the smallpox in the blanket. Whatever they do, they're going to continue to do. Because nobody is standing under their own self. When you go to the Japanese restaurants, it's Mexicans making the sushi. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you go into a meeting of conscious minds and all that, you know what I mean? 10% of the people there is working for the man. You know what I mean? Seeing Beyonce doing that on a thing is equivalent to you maybe going to a Black Power rally, and then one of your friends show up in a police officer uniform. And then you're like, what you doing? You be like, nah, I just came from work. I just want to support. Like, you're gonna look at that person kind of funny. You dig what I'm saying? Because it's ambiguous. It's not direct. It's not, I'm this. It's, I want you to think I'm this, or maybe I could be this, or maybe I am down with that based upon how I look. But again, how revolutionary are you when allegedly half the people behind her, the women that was doing that, some of them were men allegedly, and and on top of that, she still got a blonde weave on. Like, you know what I mean? That's the people that like to big up people like Angela Davis. When I'm like, come on, man. It all is about how authentic you can be. So if you don't know yourself, then I can't expect you to be real. If you did know yourself at one point and then chose to not, by maybe compromising yourself or whatever you felt you needed to do, that's on you. And I'm not here, and nobody should be here to judge that. However, we are at a time where fakeness is at a premium. And anybody that's real, you understand what I'm saying? If you appear to look like you're doing it, you'll blow up. But if you're really doing it, it's going to take you a little longer, because this society do not want anybody that's real to do nothing for for humans in reality. And I don't mean just black people. I mean white people. I mean no white people want white people to step up and say, hey, stop doing what you're doing to black people. The mass generation of them ain't trying to do that. Because half of these racists that's being brought up today, that's at school, hanging nooses and stuff like that, writing nigger on their t-shirts in colleges and stuff, these people, they parents is like my age. They grew up under the same hip-hop generation and all that as I did. So what happened where some of them decided to embrace it to the point where now they want to basically make it seem like they created it. And now us, we again are at a stage where somebody else has co-opted our identity. We are now disassociated from it. And now somebody else is dictating and making all the money from it. Ain't you tired of that? Ain't you tired of being labeled and having to fall under the jurisdiction of what somebody else expect you to be because you happen to be darker skin or lighter skin? Like, the time for all of that is done, unless you want it. So what I would say is this: be under your own vine and fig tree, man. Stop hating on what you see other people do. Even if it's bad, assess it for what it is and try not to be emotionally caught up. Stop giving your emotional energy. Start to practice indifference as an Asiatic melanated person in the world. We care way too much about stuff that ain't got nothing to do with us. And then we get mad when the people that we tried to advocate for or whatever don't follow through with what we want. You know what I mean? If you really wanted Obama to do something as a black man or black woman during his tenure as a president for black people, then you should have done something about it. Picket, riot, do whatever you need to do. Because if you don't, they assume that you don't care. There's a difference between a redress of grievance and a reparation. You know what I'm saying? Next week we're gonna talk about that.